The Sarasota County Eldercare channel is brought to you by Mike Levine and the great folks at Homestead of South Sarasota County. Today's guest is Tanya Scotisi with Farley Funeral Homes and Crematory.
Hi, welcome to the Sarasota County Eldercare channel. I'm Marianne Gordon with Homestead Senior Care in Venice, Florida. Today I'm here with Tanya Scotisi from Farley Funeral Home and Crematory. Hi Tanya, how are you?
Hi Marianne, thanks for having us this morning.
Oh, well, you're very welcome. I have some questions to ask you today. First, can you tell me a little bit about Farley Funeral Home and Crematory?
Sure, of course. So we are family owned and operated. We've been serving families since the early 30s, originally from Indiana. We have 2 locations here, serving our Venice location and Northport location. And we are also affiliated with Venice Memorial Gardens, which is our cemetery out on Center Road.
All right. I've been to the gardens and they're absolutely gorgeous. Can you tell me what type of burial options do you offer?
So we offer pretty much every line of funeral service available. We consider it the ABCs of funeral service, from anatomical donation if someone wants to donate their body to science. There's 2 programs that we cover. Burial for burial in the state of Florida or outside of Florida. So for example, if someone has, let's say, property that they have a family plot up in another state, we can actually do a transfer of their body at the time of passing. We also have a trading spaces program, which allows families who do own burial property in another state to actually utilize the gardens. So it's a program that's called Trading Spaces. And the last line we offer would be cremation services. We do own and operate our own crematory at the funeral home. Your loved one never leaves our care, and we are available to the community 24/7.
That's wonderful. So if I choose to go with cremation, or ashes as you call it, will I need to purchase a casket for that?
Okay, so in the funeral profession, we refer to the ashes as cremated remains. So that's the word that we use. I know a lot of people outside of the profession will call and mention the word ashes, but we refer to them as cremated remains. With cremation, the state of Florida does require a container that the body is actually put in and cremated in. It's not an urn, so it's called a cremation container or alternate container. That is a requirement by the state of Florida. We offer very simple ones, starting with cardboard, going all the way up, depending on personal choice. Another misconception with cremation is if families want, they could still have, whether it be a private viewing just for their immediate family, they could still have a visitation and or a celebration of life service or a church service. And then be cremated at the final disposition. So it doesn't have to be what we call a direct cremation. They could still have the options of you would with a burial, except at the end the person is cremated.
All right, so just backtracking on that answer, you mentioned visitation and services. Do you work with the families to help them decide what's best for them?
Of course, and we also kind of go over like a crash course in vocabulary, because the funeral profession, we start mentioning these words that most people are not familiar with. So we go over step by step. We're pretty much hands-on every step of the way. Families that we serve have access to us while they're utilizing us, and even afterwards, as far as if they need anything, have any questions. We kind of walk through what their wish is, both on if they're doing pre-planning, so like before a death occurs, people can document their wishes ahead of time, and that can be updated or changed. Or we work with families who don't have any arrangements, and let's say someone's loved one dies, they're coming into the funeral home making wishes at that time. So we are, our funeral directors, hand-held every family every step of the way, so we're there to guide everyone.
That's wonderful, because I'm sure it's a very stressful, sad time for people.
Definitely.
And they need that direction. I personally would like to be cremated. Can my family, after I pass away and I'm cremated, can they take my remains home with them or bring them somewhere to be scattered? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, well, it'll be 200 years from now when you pass away, so we're going to get 200 more years. But you'd be joining probably about 72% of the families that we serve at Farley Funeral Homes are choosing cremation. The state statistic of Florida is above 50%. Options for families, like you mentioned, of what to do with the cremated remains. Families can take the urn home. An urn simply means a container that holds the cremated remains. So families can bring us one from home, maybe something personal. I've seen quite the selection, from everything from cigar boxes to vases to different objects, we do offer a full line of different types of urn and keepsakes. So a lot of times families like to divide the cremated remains amongst maybe several family members. The other option is to treat the cremated remains just like you would a casket, and have what we call permanent memorialization, and that can be in a cemetery locally like Venice Memorial Gardens or a cemetery of the family's choice. There are options at the cemetery for in-ground burial, or what we refer to as columbarium, which is above ground, and many other options from there. And a lot of families also like to scatter either a portion or all of the cremated remains, and some families actually do all three that we just went over.
All right, so that's very interesting. That was my next question. If I want to be buried in the Memorial Gardens, can I also take some of the ashes and bring them to a special place?
Yes.
So that answers that.
Yes.
If I want to be buried in the Memorial Gardens, do I need to buy my plot? How does that work?
So both, just like the funeral home, you can do pre-planning. The cemetery also offers the option of pre-planning. Pre-planning simply means articulating or discussing what your wishes are before the death occurs. So we have a lot of families for various reasons. One, to alleviate somebody else from making that decision. People don't want their children, maybe bothered or making decisions that they don't want. So we have specific, people that are very, like, for example, if you want to be cremated and you don't document that with anybody, somebody might end up burying you. So, but yes, at Venice Memorial Gardens, we do offer different types of burial options and things like that. And you can have the option of pre-planning, which is done ahead of time, or at need, and you can do, again, take some of the cremated remains home. You can, did I answer your question? Okay.
And I really like that idea of having different options in the Memorial Gardens, when I was in the Memorial Gardens, one thing I noticed were a variety of unique grave markers. How do I go about choosing that?
So our Memorial Garden allows, we have one section called the Garden of Prophecy, which does allow upright markers, and you can customize that. We have, as you've seen, people actually having their own photograph on it, or something very specific to maybe a hobby, something that they collected or did. You can actually meet with one of our representatives ahead of time and actually, get that on paper and see what it is that you want and design it ahead of time. We actually offer mausoleums, which are beautiful, as you've seen, and sometimes people actually customize those ahead of time on the pre-planning side.
Yeah, there's such a wide variety, and one of the things about the gardens that I was just so impressed was there was just a feeling of peace, and it was beautiful. It was a nice place to go.
Yes.
So
yes, we have a lot of people actually bike ride through the gardens, and it is a very peaceful, space just to reflect.
Yeah. I went through one of your books, and I was also particularly impressed with the variety of caskets. Who's going to help me decide what kind of a casket I want?
So when you meet with one of our funeral directors or family service counselors, again, either pre-need or at need, as you've seen, we have a full selection of different casket options, both in color, in price, and material. Mostly the caskets usually come in either woods or metal with varying degrees depending on the type of each material. So you can pretty much have it your way even for traditional burial. Some families like to keep things simple, other families think it's the last hurrah, so to speak, and they want to do something more elaborate. But whatever the family budget is, we work with every family to make sure we're providing an excellent service to them.
That's wonderful. I have to ask this question because, again, when I had a wonderful tour of the gardens, the Memorial Gardens, we passed by the pet cemetery.
Yes.
Can you just explain that to our viewers?
Sure. So the pet cemetery was actually started several years back. We had a lot of requests from the community in wanting options for pets just like we would humans. And so we opened up Venice Memorial Gardens Pet Cemetery and Crematory. The pet crematory is housed actually at the gardens, and anyone that's interested can take a tour of either crematory, the human or the pet one. Same philosophy, your pet never leaves our care, so our own staff is involved every step of the way with the cremation. And especially with pet owners, they can be involved if they wanted to be there when their pet was cremated. We also offer full body options for pets, meaning that if they don't want their pet cremated, you can actually have your casketed burial, which was what I did with my little Gizmo, who was 18 years old. So she has, I think you saw the marker out there. Yeah, so she has her own spot. She was kind of antisocial and didn't like people, so I actually purchased 2 spots for her. So she's right in the middle. So
she can have her space.
Nobody on either side, and she's actually buried facing backwards, so she didn't have to look at anybody. So we honored her wish. She didn't like people in life, and we weren't going to have her with anybody after her passing.
You know, it's such a beautiful tribute to, you know, our best friends sometimes, and really our furry family.
Definitely.
You know, I love it.
And another neat concept for family members that want to be buried with their pets, they can actually, the pet owner can actually purchase a spot next to the pet garden, and they can actually have their body buried next to their pet. So we offer a lot of different options, both for pets. The memorial benches, which I think we showed, were the benches where you can have cremated remains placed in the benches and different things. So there's many, many options that meet every family's uniqueness, every budget, every wish.
And that's important because we are all individuals in life as in death.
That's correct. That's correct.
So finally, Tanya, I just want to ask you, what sets Farley Funeral Homes and Crematory apart from the other funeral homes in the area?
So at Farley Funeral Homes, our mission is to actually strive for excellence with every family that we serve. We do that by having a professional staff. We are available to the community 24/7. If someone passes, let's say after 5 p.m. or on the weekends or holiday, it's our own staff going out to transfer the family's loved one into our care. So we don't outsource any part of our service. Because we have and operate our own crematory, that also assures the family that their loved one is not being transferred to another location. So I would suggest that if anyone is, comparing, ask the provider, where does the cremation take place? Who is picking up my loved one after 5 o'clock or on the weekend? Also, we do offer a lot with veterans. Veterans benefits are available, which we assist each family member in. So many things offer us or separate us from other providers, including our celebrant services. We have 3 certified celebrants on staff at the funeral home. There was a study done a few years back showing that a lot of families were not necessarily religious, and families didn't want to actually have a religious service or funeral. So if that's the family wish, we can accommodate more of a celebration of life service if someone chooses.
I'm so impressed with Farley Funeral Homes. Really, really personalized service, educated and professional staff. Tanya, thank you so much for being here with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I'd like to have you come back at some time to talk about pre-needs.
Sure.
Okay?
Sure. Definitely.
Thank you again.
Thank you
very,
much.
very informative for our viewers.